to the old, reliable, open mic, Mr. John Pinchmit.
I'm going to, for once, do a short poem. And this one is in relation to something that's going to happen at the end of this month. There's another big royal wedding in Britain, Prince William to Kate Middleton. And down the line, books will be written about what went on out of the public eye. This is a short poem I wrote in 1992, based on a review of a book by Andrew Morton, Diana, Her Story, which was published that year. Here's the quote that started the poem. At a raucous bash, a few evenings before Princess Diana's marriage, Princess Margaret romped with a balloon tied to her tiara as she got slowly pickled on a cocktail called a long, slow, comfortable screw up against the throne. Royal coupling. Judging from the latest dirt on the House of Windsor, the only long, slow, comfortable screw Diana may have ever had was out of lead crystal, Charles having other things on his mind. History repeats itself. One pictures the Macbeths' last carnal bliss in Inverness, Duncan on the way, Lady Macbeth, the aggressor, not completely unsexed, promised power, a wonderful aphrodisiac, virtually savaging Macbeth, who needed release, and found it too, one last time before the throne. But later, the deed done, distracted, Macbeth never again touched her with his awful, ever-blooded hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John Pinchmit. Margaret Cahill.
This is just a piece of flash fiction, so it's just a short piece by 300 words. It's called No Way Out. She stood at the edge, staring into the coffee-coloured water, thinking about him. The infinite darkness of it was momentarily broken by a shiny green blur as two dragonflies swooped by, skimming the water. Her gaze followed them to where they had settled on an arm of outstretched gorse leaning over a drain. She let herself be distracted by the abundant plant and animal life around her. It's also full of life, she ironically thought to herself, this place of death. She crept towards where the dragonflies were perched, mesmerised by their glowing green bulbous bodies and translucent paper-thin wings. She noticed the globs of frog spawn that clumped together to fill the drain. She smiled as a frog jumped out of nowhere and landed right beside her. Why couldn't they have just left you here? At least you would have been among the living, not surrounded by row after row of rotting dead corpses. She imagined his body being preserved by the age-old layers of peat, the modern-day bog body, and laughed at the idea of his oversized hoodie, drainpipe jeans and nose ring being studied as indicators of cultural practice by academic experts in a few hundred years' time. He would have liked that. He had been a lover of history and anthropology, always asking why things were the way they were, while she was happy to simply let things be. But that image was soon replaced by the one that so frequently haunted her sleep. And once again she saw his limp body being hauled out of the water, his head drooping backwards, his face streaked with dirt and globs of algae smeared across his cheek. She remembered the pained look of remorse on the men's faces as they dropped the slap rope to the ground, as if retrieving the body somehow made them responsible for its destruction. She glanced back at the bog hole and shuddered. After all these years, she still couldn't help wondering what he was thinking as he slipped below the thick, soupy water, knowing there was no way out.
Thank you, Margaret. Now we have Brian Blaney.
This is in the book, Poems and Profiles, which is over there, so this is my printed copy version. When I started work in Limerick, middle of the 60s, and so on, everywhere was unionised, and you had to have a card, etc., for apprenticeship or whatever you wanted to do, or if you aspired to anything. And it wasn't until the industrial estate of Shannon started up that real jobs began to be had and real money began to be earned. Prior to that, we were led to believe in Limerick, in various jobs, that you were getting the best for your buck and that you were getting good wages. The unions told you that, and they told you that was the going rate. And when I moved from a city job on a Friday night when I left and started in Shannon on a Monday morning, my wages trebled, and I wasn't particularly qualified in anything at that time. And it was a stark reality about, suddenly I said, how can it be that you can just travel, which was 15 miles at that time, it's only about 12 now with the new roads. How can you suddenly, this value in you suddenly be greater? And I realised that everybody I worked with were actually Limerick and Irish people and so on. So it occurred to me that we all have it, but we just don't seem to appreciate it. And it took somebody coming in from abroad to actually dig up the ground that we were standing on and actually show us what we could do. But we still don't seem to have learned that real lesson about that, and we have this admiration for others and faraway hills are green. So this basically this is what this poem is about. It's called Lingering Melody. The Irish labour movement knew little of space exploration when non-unionised capitalist companies landed on the tranquil shores of the Shannon industrial estate. Before then, working from benches still marked by Dickensian tools, grown men with families struggled under minimal rates for unionised jobs, for too long basking in the shadow of James Larkin's statue. Many were unaware he was also eclipsing their rising sun. Into the sunlit space landed Spaceship Enterprise, and we marvelled at their giant footprints across the green field sites of Ireland. Walking between the furrowed lives of families, they turned over the old sod and showed us rich soil beneath our very feet. They also told us we were 40 shades of green, and we sang the song without listening to the lyrics. Only the melody lingered on. 40 years later, as Spaceship Enterprise journeys onwards to Mars, we still stare in awe at their footprints in dust, still believing faraway hills are yellow, still believing in moonlight, still in the shade, humming the melody. Thank you.
Brian Blaney. Now we have Michael Gallagher.
Saturday Night Fever. And don't be alarmed, I'm going to try to, I haven't gone out of my head, but I'm going to try to sing 3 words. Don't leave the room, please. Saturday Night Fever. Memories of London, really, that's what it is. Saturday Night Fever. Barely 20 minutes after the Waltones had fueled their Fenian blood on the one road, and with a nation once again, we were vacating the premises. Then Tipperary John burst into song, like me, way out of key. Shinna Fina Fon. And it would have finished that there too. For he, like the rest of us, knew no more. We knew no more. But the donkey Donohoe, head bouncer on the night, bellowed, "No rebel songs. We'll have none of that shite round here." And then aimed his Doc Martin squarely at Tipperary's Golden Veil, doubtless dreaming up another Kerry point. Tipperary, tumbling down the stairs, was luckily so limp from drink that he walked away with just a broken leg.
Thank you, Michael. And now we have Tom Maloney.
I'm sure you're all familiar with the Odysseus story, the Homer's story about the guy coming home from the Greek wars. And at the end, his wife is at home waiting for him, Penelope, and of course she's waiting for years. But eventually he turns up and he kills all the suitors who've been trying to make ways with Penelope. So a year has passed on. They're now living happily, domesticated, and he's in the town square, settling down on a Sunday night, and Penelope is quite happy to have him home. So this is where my poem starts, using his name in vain as the title. After our first anniversary here in our Ithaca home in the town square, you were having no regrets. You made clear I should lose the shackles of conqueror, be relieved from the odyssey of war. No sense in would-be Christian guilt either, gave the nod that we should stay together. Perhaps the one who mixed the metaphor that the past is a different country was correct in his intention, for the less one stirs memory, the better. Nevertheless, to reflect is to wander again, to silenced places, to beggar, put on the wraps of disguise, your lover, only one in on the source of the timber for our marriage bed, made you consider, along with my power a secret suitor, able to bend and string my great bow, that your saviour was your old Superman who would take no prisoner, that you would stop pretending to weave for Laertes, plug in the Phillips Kima core iron, the one that backs up as a steamer. Epic stuff. Like what you are engrossed in doing now as you sit with one eye on ER. Pick up my pink shirt before you lean on the cuffs, smoothing out wrinkles as if they were never there, like me for 20 years, just as I travelled to poetry readings, where our worn old linen is hung out for reference, hackneyed, chance for a writer to imagine that he could be Homer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom Maloney. Now we have Dania Fernandez.
Thank you. This is the first poem I have wrote just in English, and I wrote it 1 month ago, 2 months ago. When nothing can help you, when everything is broken around you, you are just sitting there with all of your world surrounding you, not knowing which piece you must start with to fix it. When you're afraid of yourself and nothing can help you, when you don't feel your heart, but it is still throbbing, remember me. Remember that I am with you. Remember my love and smile for me. When you can't feel anything, when your eyes are open but are unable to see, lean on my shoulder, because I'll always be with you. When you're afraid of yourself, remember who you are, that little baby, that little girl who used to hold my hand. Remember our little farms, our little dogs. When you feel lost and you don't know where to start, don't stop fighting. Do not give up. Remember the taste of strawberry smoothies. Remember the sound of your laugh and the feeling of joy. Remember those Sunday afternoons we sat around the table, our legs hanging from the chairs, fingers deep in butter, hot chocolate, the smell of toasted bread that enveloped the kitchen and the dining room, the color of the jam, Elvis's voice singing in one of his films. Remember when we used to skate on the terrace, or the houses we built between the pairs of slaves. Remember El Club and Las Tetas de Sabrina, where Alberto and you shared a tablet of white chocolate, while the rest of us were looking at you, dying with envy. Remember the songs we used to sing shout from the terrace. Remember our hopes, our loves. Remember who you are and fight for yourself. Remember, you are not alone. You will never be alone. Remember how wonderful you are.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Now we have Edward O'Dwyer.
This is a very, very personal poem, and it's my latest poem. It's called Gift. Don't think it's out of hurt that I return this gift to you, given in faith that these fingers, like no others, could read the intricate braille of its desires. Nor is it without hurt, nor is it out of hurt, I wish to tell you now, to set it back where you took it from. Tell you this as though a flower could be unplucked, lost bloom, thence restored to its frayed and sagging petals. I wish to explain how it has stopped working, given up its once rhythmic beat on the insides of my palms, but make clear I don't do so out of hurt. Think to compare it to how a clock can stop ticking across a moment's breath, how light can of a sudden extinguish from a room, but can say such things that may seem said out of hurt. I hope you'll know it is not out of hurt I return this gift without the wrapping of things I could say. They could only be words of shreds and tatters now. Thank you.
Edward O'Dwyer. Now we have Christy O'Donnell.
I read one last night in the White House about when the religion changed everything. 4th class was confirmation and they bumped it to 6th. We lost out a lot of money. So, and this was the follow-up to it. 6th class. Straight into 6th class with the head, Brother Carney, hoping that this year none of us would have a barney. He seemed to be a nice chap, an easygoing fellow. A whole month and so far he was still quite mellow. He took us hurling out in the park, where all of us could show we could indeed hit the ball without a broken window. Football in the air, and then upon the pitch, what a dream. And we never saw it coming, the whole class were now playing as a team. This was the year we seemed to lose some of that dread, and also realised why Brother Carney was the head. This one had brains for what we could see. He never asked us to do anything for free. There was always a price, is what he would say, when giving or taking from people these days. And this was confirmation year, and our plans hadn't changed. We were going to make some money out of this religion. How strange. The bishop had heard of our class and the disgrace, and for all our transgressions, he was going to slap us on the face. The mere thought of this had us all in defence, and a slap from the bishop for a lousy few pence. After all, this was confirmation, and it was not going to go away. But our mistrust of authority hung over us all that day. And Brother Carney, in his wisdom, he stood behind each one, calming us down and telling us it for sure now won't be long. And from all they told us, to now we just couldn't believe that a tip from the bishop was all we get as a reprieve. From start to finish, the day had gone quite well. Time to count the cash, from pockets that swelled. And when counted and piled up, it was a fine tidy sum. As I sat there staring at it, in walked my old mum. And the same thing for the rest of the lads in my class. And when it came to money and mothers, no one could surpass. All our nice piles of cash had somehow dwindled, how ironic. Our mothers, it seemed, had degrees in economics. Brother Carney's words rang loud and were clear. Nothing is free in this life, Christy. Records for years in mine.
Thank you very much, Christy. Mr. Tom
I
McCarthy.
really didn't bring anything with me tonight, so I just rushed through them. This is one I read last night, and I have it written all over the place. But I'm actually reading this for Ed O'Dwyer's benefit, because there's a little story in this, I suppose, in a sense. It's actually written for a trophy which I won called the Trophies for the Children of Lear. And it's a lovely trophy, and it'll be coming up shortly again for competition screening shortly. I'd love to be able to read like John Pinch Smith, the way he can read his stuff, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to try and take you off. I might get no place, but I'll try. The children of Lear. It's not easy to surrender something you've grown accustomed to, even though the only purpose it serves, after being presented to me, was to rest on the shelf of the cabinet in my sitting room, standing there motionless, taking up space, gathering dust. Left there as a reminder of a joyful occasion, a victory that has long since simmered into perspective. I'm not the poet you thought I was, it has been said, but then again, I cannot remember harbouring the word poet within my head. It is you that has christened me without water. Now you point your arrow against my sword and give me no quarter. I rarely glance in the direction of the cabinet now. I suppose the novelty has worn off. But there have been occasions when I prevented my granddaughter from dislodging it from its position. Her mother, my daughter, shouting out her name, "Aliyah, leave Granddad's trophy alone. It's too heavy for you. You will get hurt if it falls on you." Never mind about breaking the swan's neck or tearing a wing from its body. It's only Granddad's trophy, and he will not be needing any acknowledgement as to his ability to associate with assonance. Assonance? Well done, Tom McCranky, one of the children of Lear spurted out, mimicking the voice of the poet that christened me with such a title. She was quickly rebuked by the other children, telling her she was not allowed to speak or move in the presence of humans. But he is a poet, and we are also human in a different form, she replied. Yes, said the swan, perched on top of the trophy. But that was nearly 900 years ago, he said, shaking the dust off his feathers and spreading his wings majestically. Looking down on his twin brothers and older sister, he asked, "Well, what are we waiting for? It's time to fly, so let's say goodbye." Winking in my direction, he whispered, "Assonance, Mr. McCranky. It's been an honor." I watched 4 beautiful swans mixed with the heavenly clouds. Their conversation carried an echo. A voice was still explaining, "But he's a poet." Another voice said, "If you ask me, he's a load of old consonantal assonance, hanging around for too long with a shower of old vowels." The final echo came from Finola, who whispered, "Be nice, Con. Mr. McCranky might hear you."